All right, if you get some coffee and find a seat, we're going to get started. Saved it. All right, welcome. Raise your hand if this is your first time at 1 Million Cups. Awesome. Well, welcome. I'll explain to you kind of how it goes. We have two businesses that present, and they'll present for about 6 minutes, and then we'll throw it over to our expert panelists for some questions, and then we'll open it up to you for questions. So just raise your hand if you have a question when it comes to that. And everyone, if you could, take out your phones, and we have a 1 Million Cups app that you can download and check in, and you also can provide direct feedback to our presenters, which I'm sure they greatly appreciate. Now let's introduce our expert panelists. We have Matt Dantzler and Marilyn Fluke. Go ahead.
Morning. 2-second delay. Good morning, I'm Matt Dantzler. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Illumisoft, and we build custom software to solve business problems that off-the-shelf software can't solve.
Good morning, I'm Marilyn Fluke. I've been here more than a few times, and I usually sit up in the front and I often ask a question, so they brought me in today. But I am currently a SCORE mentor. I retired from the federal government and all things contracting and real estate, and we mentor entrepreneurs and startup businesses, so thanks for being here today.
Thank you. And I forgot to introduce myself, Caitlin. This is Kyle. John, Nicole, Courtney, and Tyler's in the back doing the video. We're the 1 Million Cups committee, so if you ever want to learn more, have any questions, come find us afterwards. Now, I'd like to introduce our first presenter, Jeff with Digital Aerials.
Testing? Okay, you can hear me. Good morning. I've actually done this before in the very, very beginning of Million Cups, so it's nice to be back. Digital Aerialists, we're kind of the stealth startup of town. We're 23 people, we have $5 million invested. We're a very unusual business. We're just now at the, starting to break even in the sense of we're profitable on our own. So just to give you an idea where we're at. We're an unusual group of people where the leadership has done things that you have in your pocket. Whether you realized it or not, a significant amount of the Wi-Fi standard was created and patented here in Kansas City with a startup that a number of us were part of. I have had the either fortune or good fortune to be pulled into court multiple times helping defend Apple in their lawsuit claims against Samsung on what is the first smartphone, and it turned out to be a license iteration created here in Kansas City in another startup I was part of, or a group of us were part of. Gaming systems, if you use modern games and you're looking through smoke and fire and you can see through them, that quaternium technique is our CTO created and we licensed to the overall gaming community. Pulse oximetry and capnography, if you ever go inside of an operating room or into a hospital, that's a technology that you've used. Millimeter wave imaging, you can curse a number of us when you stand like this at the airport. A lot of us come from JPL and Caltech, and that's part of what started this. Like all good startups, there's a good story. If I do anything, it's the story is the fun part here. We looked at drones. Everyone has seen drones. And as I jokingly say, any 14-year-old with his dad's credit card can be a drone expert. But drones are a funny thing. It's kind of like the early days of PCs. It turns out the software that runs all drones, makes them fly, is open source, with two notable exceptions. We're one of those. And it is seriously flawed. And the flaw is in the math. Unfortunately, 6 minutes isn't the time that you can explain this, but a drone has to fly in multiple views. A drone has to fly in the view that it sees, which is called the drone view. It has to fly in world view, so if the wind is blowing and you want it to be stable, it has to tilt into the wind. So the drone, though stable in the world view, and the drone view is tilting into the wind. Every time you use a sensor in a perfect world, you want to be able to see in the direction of these multiple views. So you would think a drone keeps track of all those things, and the answer is, of course not. What it does is it just cheats. It says, well, as long as I have GPS, I don't have to do any of the hard math. So when a drone flies inside, if any of you have flown a drone inside, what happens? What we say in the Midwest is it goes catawampus, right? Or wackadoodle is what I'm famous for saying. It starts jumping meters in space in a second. Just goes wackadoodle. And what's interesting is the sensors inside the drone that sense are only drifting 2 centimeters in a minute. Yet it goes meters a second. It's wackadoodle. Turns out that math is really, 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 really hard. It turns out to be the math of string theory. It's multidimensional differential space, up to 30 different vectors. You would have to be a crazy group of people to do the math correctly. So we looked at drones and said, just looking at the problem, they're unstable inside. They should be instantly deployable. This idea of waiting 90 seconds to fly a drone is silly. It should be able, to the time you can drop it, it should be able to catch itself, turn on, and come back to your hands. And it should have all of its sensors mapped inside of this math space if you ever want to have the promise of what I call flying freaking robots, autonomous drones. They're not here today. It takes some crazy group to do the math right to enable that, okay? We, as I said, come from the space navigation background. 4 of the original founders were from, actually employed at JPL as professors. We did that math. If you've seen this movie, Hidden Figures, you'll notice there's an epiphany moment where they say, let's use old math for a new problem. Though they Hollywooded it up. That's exactly what happened here. Of course, we've solved these problems, or I wouldn't be standing in front of you talking about the problems. And by the way, I have 1 minute and 20 seconds. We've created multidimensional frames of reference. We've solved this that can fly stably inside and out. It's instant, no startup time. If you go to our website, you'll see us like drunk sailors throwing drones into an open arena at a recent convention. And every time we did it, the drone would turn on as it leaves the hand of the thrower, catch itself, and start flying. We're the only people in the world that can do that trick. We are, some ways, a software business hidden under hardware. Our first product, which we're just starting to go into production with as we speak and ship to customers, is what I brought up with me. It's stable, safe, able to do all the stuff that I've said. Let's get to a video of it. We sell mostly to inspections, law enforcement, warehouse operations today. This is us about 2 weeks ago flying in. There's a brand new bridge in Overland Park. As you can see, you can't do this with a normal drone. I dare anybody to try this. We're flying stably. You'll see in this video, we actually catch the lip of the beam and pop out. So collisions are not a problem. Here we're flying into a culvert. Can you imagine the marketplace opportunities in America flying into, somebody just said, a tunnel in Korea, or a cave in Kansas City, or a culvert anywhere in any of the Department of Transportations? Okay, I'm done. I will take questions. Thank you.
So I'm happy to say that I've been here on some of your previous presentations. Thank you for coming back. And what I find very useful is to see the journey you've been on and how you're progressing with your business. So thank you for that. You said you have $5 million invested in your company. Mm-hmm. What's your funding source or sources?
Like all early capital, it's primarily individuals. Strangely, it's individuals primarily here in Kansas City, which is more oxymoronic, because in many ways the business started in Pasadena with Kansas City money, and then it moved to Kansas City. So of those 20... Good
place to be.
Yeah.
So what are your sales and profits?
Sales are just starting literally this week and next. The product sells with such a margin, we have to sell 10 a month to support ourselves. We're not showing profits, or we're not announcing them publicly.
Well, understandable. So I've heard a lot lately about regulations about drones coming in, and about possible requirements that there be pilots and licensed pilots for drones in certain areas. Are you seeing any of that, and would it affect your business?
For all practical purposes, there was no commercial drone business a year and a half ago, and then the Part 107, which is what you're referring to, came into play. Part 107 requires that a pilot is always in command. Now, by the way, a drone in a building technically is not covered by Part 107.
Okay.
So most any place that people tend to fly us, the rules don't apply, but nonetheless, rules they be. And it's created the commercial marketplace we see. I mean, effectively, it was illegal to do anything commercially with a drone without a special exception prior to, again, about 2 years ago.
So what's your biggest challenge?
Well, like all growth, it's funding and deriving growth. This isn't my first rodeo, as you can probably guess. So, now we're at a stage where we're hiring approximately a person a week. We're outgrowing our facilities. We need always additional capital to grow. That sucking sound you hear is growth, as I jokingly say when it comes to cash flow. Yet we're in a wonderful position. We had some investment bankers in advising us yesterday, and they just shook their heads and said, this is what you pray for. What you pray for is to be in this situation.
So nice job on your presentation.
Oh, thank you.
So a couple of differentiators are obviously you can fly without a GPS signal. The design's a little different from what I've seen on the website as far as having the copters protected. That's probably not the right term, the rotors protected.
Yeah,
so how the culverts and the things that you're able to do with this, was that all inspection that was just done manually on foot?
Yeah, it's
before?
manually right now. So remember I talked about that we have the good bones to ultimately do autonomous flight aware of, so we call it visually aware autonomous flight. So obviously in our bowels are some crazy people working on that technology to take our bones, the way that we do this geometric algebra, which is the term of art for kind of the broad math that we do. And again, there's only a few hundred people that know that in the world, and so we have to train or have one of those 200 people. We're fortunate to have both. So that's what we have to do to move forward, autonomous flight.
So I understand you just started sales. What is your sales plan and your sales channels going forward? Do you see this resellers, just yourself, other options?
Right now, it's just a direct sales model. What's interesting is last week I went to the Transportation Research Board. So 6,000 civil engineers and mechanical engineers show up in Washington, D.C. And it was real funny. We were standing in a booth, friend's booth, and everyone who walked up to us said there was interest. And let's say, so there was really 40 people came up. They picked it up and said, how much is it? I said, $20,000. They said, that's all? Again, 20,000. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, the investment banker looked at me and said, why didn't you say 30? And I said, stop it. And everyone said, call me immediately. I need this for my Wisconsin bridges, my DC bridges, my New York bridges, whatever. It was really fascinating. So, there's a problem well articulated by Singhi in his famous book, The Fifth Discipline, about we often react to all this inflood of orders. And we have to be very careful we don't see that impulse function as the overall data set. So right now, we're just buried by bridge inspection. Some police, imagine if, God forbid, something like Las Vegas would happen again. Imagine what they said in Las Vegas if you watched the 60 Minutes interview. The guy said, we left our dogs in the car and they started tearing up. We blew this hole in the door and one of us had to step through first. And whoever stepped in would likely get shot. Now, the shooter had already killed himself. If they had had this, they would have thrown it in the hole. They could have thrown it in 4/10 of a second from the ground and distracted the shooter. So there's a real opportunity for this in first responder applications. We're barely scratching that. We're just too busy. So part of the opportunity is when you're cash tight because of growth, again, great problem to have. It's hard to figure all your distribution channels, but we're getting there.
All right, thank you.
How was that for a non-answer?
We're going to turn it over to you guys for questions. Please get those hands up. I will get us started. Do you have patents on any of this? And if so, how do you take advantage of that?
Yeah, lots of patents. So, just lots and lots of patents. That's something that I'm very comfortable doing, and you just do it to protect the snot out of what you've invented. Yes, sir.
First of all, awesome presentation.
Oh, thank you.
How far can you go from the collection point. You obviously are broadcasting down to a collection point. How large is that collection point? You're kind of like a Google vehicle, but you're still manned. So
Right. Well, so I'm going to break your question in a couple, if I may, which is what I'm famous for doing. Let me not answer your question. Let me tell you what your question should have been and answer those. First of all, the drone is storing all of its information on the platform, but it's also sending it back. The camera that we ship as the standard camera is taking a 14, 15 megapixel image fixed and video simultaneously. You can take our camera and move it all the way to the down position and all the way 180 degrees up so it can inspect up and down. The wireless link can go miles in a field. The problem you always have as an old wireless guy is multipath. So if you're in a cave with lots of bends and there's metal in there too, you might get a couple hundred yards in a tight situation. In like a high school, if the person managing it steps in, they can usually see most of the high school, but at some point you're not going to see it if there's a lot of twists and turns and metal studs. Welcome to the modern world that all of us with cell phones understand. By the way, the term of art, here's the word of the day, rolling holes. That's what that is. So multipath will create these dead zones in a wireless system. So next time, impress your girlfriend or spouse or boyfriend and say, hey, my phone's dead. It's a rolling hole right here. There you go.
Question in the back.
Yes,
Nice
ma'am.
presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have any recurring revenues, and what's the shelf life of one of your drones?
Shelf life's really interesting. We spend a fair amount of time with EPRI, which is the power industry research group for all of the power people. As you might imagine, they'd love a drone inside of a nuclear reactor. If you put the drone in, you don't take it out. So the shelf life there is relatively short. The drone bearings on the motors, because we're an industrial user, we don't use $7 motors, we use $60, $70 motors. Those bearings are good for 300 hours and they're replaceable. So in our warranty, we say, hey, keep sending it back to us in this periodicity and we'll continue to update it. John flew it into a mud pile the other day, and we successfully learned if you bury the drone in mud, you can clean it up, but you will find mud in the motors. So that disposable life was pretty short, but we had to replace the motor. So there was the second part of your question. Where did I get it? Yeah, recurring right now is a couple of the slides I skipped. And remember, this is what I talked to in front of a venture or equity partner kind of player. Is the real revenue play is we have technology that we believe is the Microsoft Windows or iOS of the future. We have a technology. We'd love to be out of the hardware business. So we see a recurring model going forward. We're probably setting on 20, 30 million, 40 million in the short term. Just selling this instantiation is what we say internally. I didn't make that one up, of this model. But long term, it really becomes more of a, we're the smart people on the block. Do you want to license our stuff if you want autonomous flight, flying inside, those sort of things. So it's a more complicated model. You were correct in guessing that and asking.
Question up front.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, wonderful presentation. I noticed that you guys are live tweeting or tweeting right now, which is awesome. Good job. I don't know.
I'm the old gray-haired guy, so you shouldn't say too much to me about
Well,
that.
it's very important to stay on top of marketing.
It is.
So live, tweeting is really good for 1 million cups. How are you guys? What's your marketing strategy?
Strategy is a big word here. No, what we're doing right now is we're trying to find, you identify the people that absolutely positively need the product right now, and you start going after them. You create some buzz. Part of the marketing strategy is right now, if you're going to make the bigger play of being the smart people on the block, then you have to start publicly speaking, tweeting, doing, white papers, and doing lots of videos. So we're now spending a significant amount of our budget on a bunch of new intellectual, property we'll put on our websites and things, and then ultimately it will get pushed into the bigger market. Again, we have a story. It's a fascinating story, I think. A lot of people in the drone business don't like our story, but it's undeniable. No one likes hearing, the software you're using sucks. So anyway, that's what we do.
You mentioned that this is not your first rodeo. We have a lot of first-time entrepreneurs here. What mistakes are you not going to make this time around?
Oh gosh, that's like asking, what mistakes? Mistakes are I mean, it's almost a theological answer to that. I mean, mistakes are the very essence of who I have become or who I am or who I will become. You know, I believe in the paradigm, make your mistakes early, quickly, and fix them. Making them late and correctly just runs you out of time. So I'm just a big believer, don't be afraid of mistakes. Maybe not much of an answer, but you run. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting... So also, hey Dave, what day is that on? Okay, so we have an open house on the 26th for those of you interested. Kaufman wasn't, for obvious reasons, they didn't like the idea of someone just saying, can we fly a drone in your room? Though we do it in all kinds of rooms everywhere, but you know, who are these yokels? So, you know, in our shop, we fly it, you know, practically into everyone's office and throw it around. We have an open house. We're fortunate enough to have, at one time, the reigning flute champion of Ireland shares some space with us. So he and a friend are putting together a concert. So that will be online. I think there's some little poster cards sitting by the coffee if you're interested in doing that. It's on the 26th. We'd love to see you. And it's a great way to come and see it fly or call me ugly or whatever else you want to do. Question.
You do have a good story, no doubt about it, and there's endless possibilities with the tech you're playing in. I'm sure you're not the only ones playing in this space. You have some patents on your ideas, I get that. You know, what's curious to me is there's a lot of zeros in the space you're playing at. This is a completely different type of space that you're playing in than a lot of businesses we're used to seeing here. I mean, $5 million sounds like a lot of money to a lot of businesses, but to a space that you're in, which is $1 billion space, $5 million goes nowhere. And this is, you know, $50 million, $500 million is where you're going to be if you're successful. What I'm curious about is you try to get from concept and idea to maturity in a very big space. How much of that are you going to bring product to market versus embed into others who are also playing the space? And if you talked about that, I missed it, but I'm curious about how you'll use strategic partnerships to move yourself into a bigger part of the space.
I think you successfully embedded 7 questions in that. So
I want you to take the one that's most relevant to you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Yeah, we're in Kansas City. We can probably spend $1 for every $3 in Silicon Valley area. We do have competitors. I don't know of anyone doing exactly what we do. What we do is very hard. You have to start with really, really, really smart people who know this space. I'm not telling you there's not people working on this. You notice I said there's only one other group other than us who've developed this software, you know, and that group's owned by Intel. And it can't do either of the 3 tricks. That's why I'm careful to list these 3 tricks as our focus. But there's a group, they're arguably, he would argue he's smarter than us, but we're the second smartest group. So I'll take that as a compliment. They're very well funded. They were bought by what appears to be $50 million by Intel. So there's our short-term exit if we wanted to take it. We could probably find someone who would buy us up quickly. Candidly, you are correct to guess that there's more applications than just drones with what we're doing. You know, how is Facebook going to manage multidimensional VR in the future? How do you do the math of where I'm looking through VR goggles, you're looking through VR goggles, and we're managing all of these vectors? I know. How do you do, you know, self-driving cars are great. Try driving them in New York right now. They don't work. Why? Without GPS and without kind of the inertial tricks that we do, they don't know where they're at. Who solved that? I think I know. So are there other plays? Yeah, we very clearly, if you ask us as a board, you know, in many ways, we'd rather not be in the hardware business. But it takes a hardware instance, so that's why we call this an instantiation, something that represents it. We had to do the hardware to prove the software. And that's what we've done.
And thus strategic partners who are in the hardware business.
Yeah. So how do you find those people? I mean, we're in a bizarre world in the drone space. Is 85% market share is owned by a single Chinese supplier, who, by the way, is under a DOJ, Department of Justice, investigation for espionage and collusion. And the DOD has basically forbidden all DJI products, DJI products from flying in any military installation. So how do you get to not only DJI but other people to ultimately provide this technology? So we're working that. I don't know if I'm Of course, we're chasing those people, is the simple answer. So we're chasing how do you, besides just flying devices, so we jokingly say at the board level, you know, by land, by air, or by virtual sea, those are our opportunities for licensing.
Question up front.
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. So it's a slightly biased question. I'm curious how you're doing your software development, if that's all being done in-house, and if you're able to build on some existing technology, if you're having to build everything from scratch.
John, you want to do that? No, it's all in-house. As you might imagine, when you look at our code, it's all written in C++. But when you look at it, when you look at the guts of what we call the folded geometry code, it is not for mere mortals. I mean, it's very terse. And then you're going, what is this operator? Well, that's taking this differential space 30 element vector and crossing it with a temporal frame this way. I mean, you get my point. So what's interesting is our programmers kind of live in two spaces. In the kind of the guts, the folded geometry code, there's only a few that jump there. In Kansas City, John's in charge of that, so you can go look at him and say, what? So that's the man who can answer that. And then a lot of our other programmers are working on more embedded things in the larger space. We even have a simulator that we develop behaviors in. So we have a simulator environment. You can fly the drone and do some of these higher end behaviors.
All right, final question. What can we as a community do to help you?
Oh, the famous last question. You know, like a startup at our stage, we're pinched for space, so we're looking for new space. We're in 10,000 space, and we need 20 or 30. We're doing Series B rounds, so now we're, you know, doing capital so that we're not stretched too thin and can focus on the strategic issues. You know, you need all the support of a community. That's the simple answer.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks, gang.
So it is time for Mug Club. Raise your hand if you have been here 10 times or more. Put your hand down if you already have a mug. You're holding a mug, so you're out. Okay, anybody? Yep. All right. John is going to
I'm on my way.
find somebody.
Good morning. Please tell us your name and why you come to 1 Million Cups.
My name is Felisa McCannon, and I am with Talent Acquisition Group, which is a talent recruiting company for IT firms here in Kansas City, small women, veteran-owned business, and I come to Million Cups to do networking and to learn about new things in Kansas City.
Well, thanks so much for being here. All right, so we have a program that's been around for a couple of months, the Caffeinators. Could you raise your hand if you're a caffeinator? Awesome. So if you don't know what a caffeinator is, you can ask a caffeinator. If you have any questions about 1 Million Cups, they're kind of our outreach program, so they are the people to go to if you have any questions. So our next presenter, we have Heart Shaped Clothing Company. We've got Corey and Crystal coming to present.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having us here today. Before we jump into Heart Shaped Clothing, we just wanted to give you guys a quick little excerpt of who we are as individuals. So we are the Reeds, like they said. I'm Crystal Reed. This is my husband, Corey Reed. And we are entering into our 7th year of marriage this year. We are amazing parents to amazing little people. We have Caleb, who's 5, Callie, who is 3, and we have Caden, who is 1. We are also like the bomb multitaskers. So by day, Corey is employed through Hickman School District, and by night, he is the sole designer and graphic designer of Heart Shaped Clothing. By day, I'm actually employed through the Kaufman School, and by night, I handle all of the communications for Heart Shaped Clothing. And you may recognize his face. He's sitting right there. What is Heart Shaped Clothing?
Hello. Heart Shaped Clothing is, as you see, a Kansas City local streetwear brand. Our mission is to pretty much like take the art form of fashion and art and like ball it up in love and attack a lot of the social issues we deal with that don't allow us to unite, you know, come together. We want to tackle certain things like, like ignorance, impatience, just anything, again, that doesn't allow us to learn one another for who we are, have organic and genuine relationships, and just get to a place to where, again, we can just unite and attack life, together.
So why clothing? We understand that there are tons of clothing businesses here in Kansas City. We understand that. And our issue is not to just be a clothing company, just like my husband stated. We want to use this platform as a way to, again, attack some of those issues that keep us from loving each other. But again, why clothing? This is Corey's passion. Corey's always been passionate about graphic designs. He's always been passionate about clothing. I'm not that person. This was a struggle outfit for me. This is my best attempt at streetwear. But this is definitely his passion, and as his wife, I'm definitely going to support him. And it's a nonverbal expression as well. You'll see our clothes before we actually exchange words with each other. So if I can walk into a situation with a shirt that says "It's all love," to us, that's a barrier breaker. Just by looking at me from just seeing my shirt, that it's all love, so we can go ahead and start communicating with each other. So that is our mission with the brand, to be those barrier breakers and to kind of bridge the gap between the community. Did you want to add anything to this? No?
I'll just add a little bit about looking at, or how we envision like fashion for me. I look at it more so as art pieces. Like, I was intrigued by a couple of art pieces out there, and to me, that's what fashion is, Like my wife mentioned, it's a way of expression, And I love it because we can all relate some type of way with fashion. So if you're somebody who just throws it's a T-shirt on that represents the Royals winning, back in the day, or the Chiefs back in the day, or you're somebody who likes to go from head to toe, being intentional with what you wear to express something. We felt like it's something that everybody can relate to in some type of manner.
Our mission, so outside of clothing, we actually want to participate and have participated in a lot of community outreaches. So far, we've participated in the Hydrate the Homeless, where during the summer months, we provided water for the homeless. And then we also did Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners with 2 other non-for-profit organizations. And then we're starting our Spread Love campaign. So we use a hashtag called Spread Love KC, where we kind of spotlight other entrepreneurs or other businesses. So even if we're just out to eat with each other and the food is actually good, we'll take a picture of the card and hashtag Spread Love KC, just to show others some love, basically. Entrepreneurship programs for the youth. This is something that we're also passionate about. We've had the opportunity to speak with a group of kids at Lee A. Tolbert School already about entrepreneurship. So we want to do more of this. This is more of my area. I'm very passionate about this aspect of the brand. And we've also spoke on panels at YMCA, I'm sorry, in regards to just teaching youth about entrepreneurship as well. So needed assistance. As you can see from the first slide, we are parents of very little, energetic, busy, talkative, exploratory, not all the way potty trained kids. So we are pretty busy just with that. So these are the areas that I feel like we definitely need assistance on. The networking piece, I feel like we do a pretty good job at networking, but I'm not sure that we do it with the correct people at the correct times. So that's just an area where I feel like we could use some assistance with just making sure we're talking to the right people. Social media, I feel like we do a pretty good job at that, but again, it's when we got free time. That's usually us sneaking away from the kids, about 5-10 minutes. You go sit in the car, you go make a post, do whatever you gotta do. So that's another area that we could use some assistance in. And then as far as just financially, I'm glad to say that we've done what we've done so far just between our 2 paychecks. We don't have any investors or anything like that. So I would say just helping us get to a right place to where we could find those or grants or whatever it is out there that could help us out. But so far, we've managed everything from our personal paychecks. Did you want to add anything to that, babe?
No, I'm good.
Okay. And I know our presentation wasn't as detailed as my man that went before us, but this is all we have. So if you guys have any questions, this is our website here, and then this is our primary email account. So we are open to questions.
Wow, thank you.
Hi guys, nice job on the presentation. It was hard to keep you quiet though, it seemed like. But.
Yeah.
So a couple of questions and then maybe a statement or two. So this is a tough business. You know that, you're aware of that, which is good, because if you don't know it to begin with, it's not gonna be good. So if I asked you like what your value proposition is, what would you tell me?
Interesting. I would say, as far as like how we value it, or
just as a potential consumer, what's your value proposition to me? Why should I buy anything from you? To put it very blunt.
No, I like it that way better, actually. I think with us, we want to be a little different. And I wanted to explain this a little more, but I wanted to make sure we stay within our time frame of the presentation. We get that there's a lot of t-shirt brands out there. We totally get that. But I think our difference is that barrier. We have a lot of things, and I'll be frank, we have issues here in Kansas City. We do. And a lot of times we want to sweep it under the rug. But we have issues that we really need to like tackle. And it's good that we all can walk around in our Chief shirts and our Royal shirts, and we can all be together laughing and joking around at tailgating. But then after we leave, we go right back to those divisions. I think with our brand, it's to carry on that unity. So even after you leave the tailgating party, let's still talk. Let's go get coffee. Let's talk about our life. Let's talk about our differences and be okay with that. So I think that's the one difference that we have with our brand versus a lot of the other brands that we have in Kansas City. So I would put our value on that.
So I looked your website last night, and pretty lean. It's laid out very nice. But I learned more in this presentation than I did on the website. So I would definitely get some more information up on your website. I would get that statement right there. How are you actually different? I would also put on there, I noticed there were a couple partners, and I couldn't click through either one of them that had logos on the website. But I would talk about on your website and just in how you're talking to people as well about how you are really different, how you're actually doing these things. Because to go to a website and say, okay, it's different and it's a heart.
How?
Okay, what else is there? So that would be my suggestion on that. What do you think your biggest challenge is right now? It's a new business. I don't know if this is your first business.
Sort of.
Sort of, kind of, I get it, yeah.
I think we started in August 2016. I think one of our biggest challenges, like my wife mentioned, just the multitasking of, and because we respect the business. This was a process that took 5 years. Like the logo itself took 2 years.
Sure.
Just because of the organicness of it, like we just want to make something real. So for us, it's just, I love and respect the business because I've been researching it for years. I just didn't step into it, until late. So it's really getting to the things we know we need to do, and prioritizing, managing our time better, and getting to the right people, networking with the right people. Because one thing we're walking in this humbly, like we don't know it all. We know we don't know it all. We know we need help. So it's just getting mentors, just making sure, like the gentleman mentioned earlier, we're not scared to make mistakes, but we do know that time is valuable and our money is valuable. So it's just, the biggest thing is social media, managing that, and the other things I mentioned.
Okay. So I'll leave you with one last kind of rhetorical question just for you guys to think about is, it kind of goes back to that value proposition question. How are you different? And you don't even have to answer that, but just think about with all the other players out there and all the competition, what makes you guys different? Why is someone going to come to you versus one of all these other things? And I think you have a lot of the answers, but I would get some of that up on the website and I would really drill down on what that message is so you can differentiate yourself a little bit better. But nice job again.
Thank you.
So good morning. I like your vibe, if I can use that 60s word, because I was a 60s girl.
Thank you, thank you.
You go.
There are several things that I really like. Can you go back to the main video with the gentleman's face? This is so well designed to engage someone with the face, but to answer the core questions in a visual way. It's not a bullet presentation, thank you very much. And as Matt was saying, this would work very well on your website. And I don't know if you've got business cards or what you're using for marketing. You've got the basic for it. Okay, so it's Corey, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Corey, I love your shirt. I noticed it when we came in.
Thank you.
Your shirt is different. You've got a blend of plaid and camouflage. And can you turn around in the back?
Oh,
Change happens when love happens, and then your logo. This is a powerful shirt.
thank you.
It's very different than what other people have. So you're heading down a really good track.
Thank you.
And they mentioned that I work with SCORE, and we're free volunteer mentors. Get my card before we leave, we can talk. Okay, so how do you sell your shirts?
Right now, we are primarily selling online. This summer, we spent every first Friday in the Crossroads District setting up down there. We were also in a store down there, but that store has since then closed down.
So you're doing pop-up selling, basically. Okay. Explain the logo to me. I know it's a heart, but I don't know the black puzzle piece.
Well,
and it seems to be dripping, hopefully not blood.
Actually, I'm trying to sum this up. So it's actually blood, but it's representing for us a sacrifice. Like when it comes to love, unfortunately, it's been watered down. You know, everybody wants to throw
So
love.
we're going with water. It's dripping water.
No, it is.
Okay.
It is blood, but it's not literally blood. It represents sacrifice. It represents, like if I cut my arm right now, it shows you something.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like, show the love. Don't talk about the love more than you show it. So, and it like I said, sacrifice in the black and white for us it definitely entails our faith, and it represents reconciliation. And the blood kind of brings all that together, again, being the sacrifice of, hey, I might not know you, I might not understand where you come from, but if we sacrifice time, energy, and effort, we can get to a place where we come closer together. So, and it not being a perfect heart was on purpose, because love isn't perfect. Like the struggles of our marriage, it's not always perfect, but the worth is there, you know? So that's, to sum it up even, that's what it is.
Okay. So you're wearing branded, you're not wearing branded. Is that because you have more men's items than you have women's items?
No, actually, it's because I have to go to work after this, and I can't.
Oh, okay. Okay, I was just wondering, because I know a lot of T-shirts start on the men's side. I've worked with several of them, and I didn't know if you'd gone to the women's side. Although I saw a great tee in the video, and hat. You're not wearing the hat either.
Well, I didn't want to be rude. And
you didn't want to be rude, okay.
I have a hat in my back pocket.
All right.
But we actually have,
But that's really good, because I work with a lot of clients that don't brand themselves for their business.
Gotcha.
You are your best marketing device walking around. I saw your shirt first when you were walking back to get coffee. So I'm just saying, all day, every day, it's all about heart-shaped clothing and wearing as many items and putting them on your children as possible. The funding part, I'd be happy to talk with you offline on that. I've got some ideas. But I've worked with several people that want to do T-shirts and clothing manufacturing. And we've kind of boiled it down to, have you heard of the Magic Convention in Las Vegas?
Yes.
Already registered.
It's like the penultimate, do you have something that you can sell and market and be competitive? And I know it's money to go, but man, it can answer a million questions if you're able to get yourself together. And it's twice a year in Las Vegas.
And we're actually, we're registered to go in August.
Congratulations.
Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations on, I know it's not easy to come up here. It took guts. Good on you. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're going to turn it over to you guys for questions, so go ahead and get those hands up. I'll get us started. What are your specific sales goals for this year?
I think I don't know individually yet, I'll be honest and say that. But we have emailed back and forth with a few people at the bunker, I'm sorry. I think that's where our train of thought is right now. I want to get us into a place that's stable. Again, like I told you before, we did a lot of pop-up shops this summer, and that's sometimes hit and miss because you don't know the crowd that's going to be down there that particular weekend. So I do want to get us to a place to where we're somewhere stable. We get a lot of requests from people locally that want to buy now and don't necessarily want to wait, like for online purchases or whatever like that. So that is my goal, is to get us into a store this year so that we have a stable, consistent place to where people can purchase our items. I hope that answered that.
Question in the center.
I love you guys' movement, like tremendously. And with me, I'm actually a bit of a social media influencer. And one of the things I wanted to know is, what are you guys' like the big vision of it? Where are we going with this? Is it mostly gonna be retailers, just stay online, or what's the vision of it?
Definitely retailers. We know we have to survive. We have to get in the stores, and that's our vision. That's our goal. So that's like my wife mentioned earlier. That's our focus this year, is retailers, and continue to do the pop up because we love the personal part of that. We love that part. So.
Yeah, I like that. I like how you guys openly speak about love. That's something that's so undervalued nowadays. Like, and especially in business, not many people talk about it. What made you guys choose love out of all of the things? Why are you leading with that?
Man, honestly, to be transparent, for me, or I should say, the process of our marriage, like the start of it, it really woke me up. Like, not to sound all cliche or not, but it woke me up to like what true love is and how much love I've had all my whole life and didn't recognize it. So, and then we start to look in society, and it was like, what we have to do in our marriage is what we have to do in the daily life with everybody, our coworkers, and it's like like you said, we skip over the small things. We consider them small, but they're huge.
Yeah.
How I interact with people, how I react to what people say, and all that type of stuff. So it's like, but to go back, me and my wife's process in our marriage, like I said, woke me up to love in a whole nother way, and definitely our faith, our belief in God, and
Amen to that.
Love He shows us every single day,
Nice. Well, I'd love to chat with you guys afterwards.
Please, yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Question down front.
Hello.
Hi. So this is an observation I've made, and I'm nobody, so this is just my opinion. But it seems like the movement is bigger than the clothing, right? So, and it seems like the philanthropy and being out in the community and the movement, that is maybe could be the main focus, and then the shirts and the clothing is how you identify people in that movement. So I don't know if I would focus so much on the clothing, but I don't know. Now I'm telling you to go into a nonprofit, and so don't listen to me. But it's bigger. It's bigger than the clothing.
And again, we try our best to stay away from like cliche sayings and stuff. But one of the things we try to keep like our foundation on is it being bigger than the shirts. Because again, it's oversaturated. Like everybody's selling T-shirts. Everybody, is dealing with clothes, and we always, pray and speak on being intentional with that. So I don't know if you want to speak on that.
I think for me, it's, if we use this, let me start over. My biggest issue, or my biggest thing that I want to do with this, and why we're choosing to do this, as he mentioned, our marriage, and I can agree to that, but also our 3 children too. Being an adult now and seeing like all of the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis outside in the world, I don't really want that for my kids. And if I can do something now while they're babies, to where when they get older, possibly it's a different type of world, or that we've had some sort of impact on the world and the community, that it can be a little different for them. That's kind of where my passion is for. So I definitely agree with what you said. It is bigger than the shirts. So I would just say our overall vision for that is, if we can use the avenue of shirts and hats and scarves and socks and whatever else it is that we come up with to fuel that, then I think that's what we're trying to do here. But I definitely agree with you on that one.
Question in the back.
All right. I did hear a lot that you're looking into doing retail and pop-ups. Have you done any trade shows yet? And then the second part of it I see is a lot of what you're doing is more towards branding. I mean, the T-shirts are nice, and I deal with a lot of T-shirt companies and such. But the purpose behind it, how are you getting the word out on what you're doing in the areas?
For right now, we are dependent on our social media presence, and which, like we mentioned earlier, that's why we need more help trying to build that presence up so people know more about us. We have a couple articles circulating, and I'm sorry, the first question about,
Have you been to trade shows?
Oh, trade shows. Unfortunately, we haven't yet, and that's why we're trying to get to the Magic Show, so we can be more familiar with what's going around in America. I've researched a lot of them through the years. It's really trying to get our finances and time right, so we can get to those. But I would love to, if you know of any or anybody else, I would love to connect with you guys and learn more, like what trade shows are good for us to go to. Please.
Question on your right.
Hey there. I love this so much. So I went online and I was looking at the shirts and I was like bummed that they're sold out. And it didn't seem to have it would be fantastic to have a prompt when you're sold out, maybe sign up for a notification when it's back in stock, because so many people, they'll go there and they'll go away and never come back and lose that opportunity. So that was my first thought with that. And then secondly, as you're talking, it reminds me too of kind of that drive, the hate has no home here placard, and I'm like, oh, I want that on my car. I want the sticker, the heart on my car. So just what a great conversation to have with people and to say, I love you. We're open to that conversation. So that's fantastic.
Thank you. I guess to speak on that, we're definitely trying to, one of the main reasons we're here is to get assistance because I'm doing the websites, I'm doing most of the design stuff, I do, and it does get overwhelming. Because to be a creator, as some of you guys know, it's like my brain is always, I want to design, and realistically, I can't do that all the time because I need to focus on more so those type of things, and being intentional. And I try my best to keep my shoes as a consumer. So I really appreciate you mentioning that because I know it's something I have to work on. And like I said, we pray that we can get some help in that area because it's needed. But thank you.
We've got another question over here.
Is the message on your shirt and your logo copywritten? Can you protect it?
Ooh, thank God we took that step and trademarked our logo, or trademarked the name Heart Shaped Clothing. Unfortunately, we haven't. I guess this is more of a copyright thing, like every design. So we want to learn that process to how do we copyright every single piece. We know there's a soft type of copyright that happens, but we want to actually make it official. So kind of a yes and no. We do have a trademark on the name. It is already trademarked under US. So. But
my second question is, can you tell me the pricing point of the various items, like your shirt and a hat?
Okay, going back to the creative part. I just made this this morning. So I just make stuff but our more stable items, our t-shirts range from 22 to 25. And even with that, we are working with retailers. So we're trying to learn more about what is the qualities consumers are looking for, in the market. And we're actually working on that now. So our hats range from $15 to $30, depending on what type of or what style of hat. And I think about now, we're trying to get this type of stuff out, but again, I have to be very patient because if it was up to me, I'm throwing out stuff all the time and we couldn't manage it, So one day I'll be able to tell you how much this costs, but right now it's just an exclusive thing that I'm just trying to represent the brand in.
Question from the panel?
So at the end, you were asking for 3 areas you wanted assistance, and social media was one of those. SCORE, with the support of Lead Bank, is doing 5 new digital workshops here at the Kauffman Foundation. The first one is getting your business online, and we bring in outside experts. There is no cost. You go to kansascityscore.org and local workshops, and you can sign up online. It's free.
Yes, ma'am.
It's targeted to what you want.
That sounds excellent.
Hello. Okay. Final question. What can we as a community do to help you?
I would say just spread the news, spread the story that you guys heard today, spread our mission, because I think that's, as she stated up here in the front, I think that's the bigger picture, like spreading the fact that we're trying to spread love above everything else. And I think that's the biggest way that you all can help us today, outside of everything else that we mentioned. But most importantly, just spreading a message and letting people know that this is what we're doing.
Thank you. Is that it?
That is it for this week. Let me pull up who we have next week. I didn't realize I was closing today. Okay, so next week we have KingFit and the Leia Center. So thank you everybody for being here, and we will see you all next week.